My name is Jennifer Gallegos, and I will be refuting Alexis's claim that genetically modified foods are harmful to society. And his two claims are that genetically modified foods have a harmful effect on human health, and enforcing patents on genetically modified foods will create a greater gap in wealth. My response is that the benefits of genetically modified foods far outweigh the speculative risks that they may cause. The advocate states that genetically modified foods have a harmful effect on health because of evidence that demonstrates that what occurred to animals when they ate certain GMFs, such as potatoes or BT cotton. The sheep that ate BT cotton developed sort of illnesses, but this occurred because they ate plants that aren't for human or consumption at all. And according to the journal article review on impacts of genetically modified foods on human health by Sanjay Mishra, foods have been genetically modified to include nutrients that the human body may need but lack. For example, blindness due to vitamin A deficiency is a common problem in third world countries. Researchers at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology Institute for Plant Sciences have created a strain of golden rice containing an unusually high content of beta-carotene or vitamin A. This proves that genetically modified foods can be and are used to improve the overall health of humans by manipulating them to contain nutrients. To contain nutrients the body isn't provided with in some situations. The journal even goes on to describe efforts to create vaccines for diseases that affect developing countries using plants, which is also helpful. Because usually the vaccines are taken from the live, the virus itself, when it can be grown in a plant, which might avoid the harmful effects the vaccine usually comes with. And the second claim is that enforcing patents on genetically modified foods will create a greater gap in wealth. The advocate states that genetically modified foods are inserted with a suicide gene, which kind of keeps the crops or the farmers from using them over and over again. And he says that because of this gene, they aren't able to save it to use later. And although the evidence proves that up until the 19th century, most farmers had kept and shared seeds with others, but this is no longer the case. Most farmers buy their seeds every year, and since many farmers grow, the most common thing they grow is corn or maize, they rely on buying hybridized seeds, but replanting seeds from hybridized plants can yield inferior varieties. And according to the article, seed industry structure is characterized by growth and consolidation published by the USDA. Farmers have been buying new seed season after season since the development of hybridization, as well as the rise of commercial seed companies, not the introduction of suicide genes by genetically modified food companies. In conclusion, the current evidence suggests that the benefits of the GMs outweigh the speculative risks, and they kind of help more than they cause harm. Thank you.
The structural issues are fine. On the first point on the health issue, you've got kind of an analysis of the reasoning that's going on here, suggesting that the example the advocate's talking about suggests the animals ate things that weren't even designed to be consumed. So the inference that there's going to be some negative consequence for humans who consume this food, I think I understand the premise right there. It's not really designed to be consumed, so that it has a negative consequence doesn't necessarily mean that the foods that we're are eating are going to have those particular problems. I do think that you need to provide the evidence from the original source that says that these foods were not designed to be consumed, so that we're sure that the inference that you're making here is a valid one. Now, the other evidence that you follow up with is really talking about what a potential benefit there might be to having some of these genetically modified foods, and I think that that's an okay counterclaim on this issue, that it's going to have an overall impact on health. I do think, though, that you need to contrast a little bit more the evidence that the advocate used on this point and how much risk there is, because it feels like this is a little underdeveloped. On the second issue, you basically are making a counterclaim on responsibility for this idea that the farmers are dependent upon new seeds each year, suggesting that it's not really the suicide gene, but it's standard practices. And since hybridization had started years before the genetically modified seeds, this has been the practice. I think that the argument here on causality is pretty good. The notion that it's having any impact on wealth or the way in which farms are going to be able to operate, I think you could probably develop some arguments on those things too. You don't really get into that. You're just dealing with the causality claim. Assuming you're right there on the causality claim, I think you've got a good answer here, but it feels, again, a little thin, like not that you're putting all your eggs in one basket, but you're depending on this one argument to be able to cover everything. And I don't remember that the advocate's argument was particularly thin on this point. And so if they had other issues that dealt with this, you're chancing it a little bit. I thought you did a nice job presenting it and trying to connect with the audience while you were speaking too. All right, thank you.